in the resolution of this conference. I will not go into much, but Professor Rantwane has indeed captured them all, amongst others, a work environment that motivates healthcare professionals, task sharing, identification of leadership, and infrastructure for the realization of the Pan-Africanization concepts, the building of institutional and management capacity across the globe. With these words, colleagues, I would like to introduce to the podium the President of AMCOA, Dr. T.K.S. Letlape. President needs no introduction. The President will be delivering our closing address for the AMCOA presidency. Over to you. You're welcome, President Dr. Letlape. Over to the stage, please.
Good afternoon. I've come to thank you. I think the most important people in terms of the conference are yourselves. So I'd like all of you to stand up and give yourself a good applause. Thank you. So I have just taught all of you how to get great applause even before you speak. Because sometimes when you finish speaking, there may be very few friends left in the audience. There's a saying in Setswana, bana ba motho ba kgaoganya tlhogo ya tsie. What that means is that siblings will share the head of a locust. That's what it means. And what it helps us with is that we become resourceful. When you have what is finite, you still share. So we never suffer from insufficiency within the family. And I guess what has happened in health circles is that the resource for health has been reduced to the head of a locust. And it's up to us as healthcare professionals to share that head of the locust. For us to be able to share the head of the locust, just like happens in siblings, we got to love one another. We got to respect one another. We got to have a concept of all of us matter. Whether you are the firstborn child or the lastborn child. Whether you are male, female, or you define yourself in a manner that you're comfortable with. We share. And for us to be able to do that, we've got to be professionals. Everybody talks about task shifting, task sharing, team-based care, like it's something new. And as I said to my colleagues in Ghana, that's nothing new. I was trained to be a competent healthcare professional. I was trained in a healthcare team. I've seen care delivered by multiple healthcare professionals with clear role definition. When I trained, the ward belonged not to the professor, it belonged to the church sister. You don't follow the rules, you don't get into the ward. We worked as a team, but everybody had their role, and in their specific role, they had authority in that role. Because it was clear who does what. Now all of you come with fancy terms like it's something new. And this pandemic of trying to reinvent something that does not need reinvention leads to lack of improvement. If you go into the car industry, nobody ever claims that they've now newly discovered the car. They just keep continually improving it. Now, plagiarism seems to be normalized in healthcare professions, where people claim to have discovered something that has been there for a long time. And we need to abandon that so that things can improve. We're now seeing a pandemic where we now have educated healthcare professionals that have no training. And we are products of education and training. And that is why you had the DDG speak about a hospital that has 20 doctors, and only one of them can give an anesthetic. Because one is educated and trained, the other 19 are educated. So we now have a false sense of there's too many healthcare practitioners that are being produced. But we failed in our duties because clearly 19 out of those 20 that have been registered by my council are not fit for purpose. What has gone wrong? When we say we protect the public, we have to understand that we cannot allow our systems to be undermined. We've allowed political interference in our processes. I've had to deal with judges that came to me as president because they had sent their children into exile to study medicine. And they come back and they do not meet our criteria. Then it becomes a political issue and we've got to change our criteria and we now register educated people. And part of the problem is that education is too big for its boots. And it's taking over what was the primary responsibility of health because only they can provide a training platform. So we now have educated doctors. Somebody lamented that we're having a lot of private hospitals coming up. That's because there's political connections, it's friends of friends that want to open schools, and we are lowering our criteria. Then you have schools that educate, even locally, and have no platform to train. And that is the quality of doctor that we produce. I'm an ophthalmologist. And some of those I trained came back to me 2 years ago and said they are concerned that the ophthalmologists that we produce now can't even do cataracts. And that is frightening. So I ask of you as regulators to wake up and regulate. I ask you to go back to having your autonomy and independence. I ask you to embrace progress so that we can reconfigure and get rid of the conflicts. A simple roadmap, taking South Africa as an example. If you run a training institution and you train and you need to be accredited by council or the board, you have no business sitting in the board that needs to accredit you. Because then things can't be done properly. Then self-regulation fails. If you sit in a board that needs to answer to a council, you can't sit in that council. If you sit in a council that answers to an overarching structure, you can't sit in that overarching structure. Self-regulation means there's many of us in the professions to sit at the different levels of education without having the same person being the professor that trained, being the one that accredits his own institutions. We had a situation where a colleague had to sign a contract with himself because he was heading the relevant unit in the medical and dental board, and he was also president of the college, and we had to sign a contract with the college. So he had to sign a contract with himself, literally. That's poor governance. The fact that we self-govern should not be confused with working at multiple levels. I've been through the mill. I was the chair of the Medical Association. And when I was chair, I was asked why I'm not in the Health Professions Council. And I said, as an association, my job is to keep the council on its toes. I can't keep myself on my toes. So I refused, because there's a clear conflict. And when I sit in council issues, I'm not in association issues. And the funny thing about being in South Africa is that we've had great forebears who've written great instruments for us, and we ignore them. In the Health Professions Council, it was written that if you're an office bearer of an association, you can't sit in the structures of council. But people found a way around it, and they get legal opinions, and they compromise sound foundations. And we wonder why the system is floundering. I can say this because I'm exiting. But we need to fix those things so that when we are given the fiduciary responsibility to guide the profession based on a statute and to serve the public, we should do it without fear or favor. That we are not conflicted and we do not fear our ministers, because we account to the people. And that's what we need to do. You know, I've had a situation where I've come to appreciate my ancestors for the protection they've given me over the years. And I'm doing them a favor now as I come to the end, at least of my South African career, that they can rest. You talk about burnout. My ancestors are burned out. They've been working overtime. Now they can even take a bathroom break. You know, I've learned in my life that I'm blessed by my forebears, and they protect me. And I've come to understand that those that hate me inspire me, and those that love me energize me. And I need both of them to be who I am. And I thank all of them. And difficult as it might be to understand,